I think another big deal with Job that God was trying to teach Job. Man, I tell you what, every time I think about that book, I think about the suffering that he went through and what God spent just to teach Job some lessons. You know, it cost you. It cost your sanctification. Cost. All kinds of examples pop in my head when I think about this. You know, of course, Jesus said, you're going to follow me, you better count the cost first, You got enough to finish? Because I'm telling you, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you to come to me, Acts chapter 14, I believe it is. I can't remember which verse right off the top of my head, but, Paul said we need to go back through and strengthen the churches and tell them that through suffering and pain and tribulation, they're going to have to go through that in order to enter into the kingdom. I'm paraphrasing. Go look it up. The sanctification process going on in Paul cost him that messenger of Satan that was given to him by God to humble him. Some people say, no, Satan gave it to him. Why would he want you to be humble? No, Satan would want you to stay in pride. Anyway, when you go back and you do a word study, you'll see that it's God who sent the messenger of Satan to humble Paul. It cost him. And what was that messenger of Satan sent to torment or buffet Paul? Of course, it was a messenger of Satan, but through that book, you see that the messenger of Satan was an angelic being, a demon. And who do demons work through? Where do doctrines of demons, how do they get taught? And what was Paul dealing with throughout the book of 2 Corinthians? He was dealing with the false apostles, false teachers that were infiltrating his work there at Corinth. And God sent that. Would he do that? He did that. And what did he do with Job? He turned Satan loose on, permitted him, gave him a short leash and said, this far, no further. On the first one, he says, don't, go ahead, but you can't kill him, Go ahead, but you can't kill him. Gave him a short leash. And you are not to be tempted beyond what you can handle or tried. People have this idea that don't apply to me. But boy, I'm telling you, every time I think about Job, I've been reading it a lot here lately. And just what he went through in order to learn what he learned. But I'm telling you, he got it. He never got the answer to why. But what he did get was, he said, well, I'm just going to get into what I want to talk about here. Who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? God shows up and shows himself to Job. Did not answer the why, but gave him something better than the answer to why. He gave him his presence. In essence, he was saying, hush, Job, you need to be quiet and listen to me and trust me. Trust me. You know, our God never promises any of us that we would never go through the valley of the shadow of death. But he does promise that he will go with us. You remember Psalm 23 says, yea, though I walk, yes, it's going to happen. You're going to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. That's Bible. It's funny, you know, how most people can quote that psalm, but they don't think about that psalm. Yes, you are going to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Yes, in this world you're going to have tribulations, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. I will be with you in that. You see, Job finally understood something, that there are things that we cannot understand, especially when we're going through things. We need to listen to these words that are from the book of Job. In chapter 42, 1 through 6, and Job answered the Lord and said, you know that you're able to do everything, and that no purpose is withheld from you. So he finally understood there's a purpose of what's going on with me here. These months and months and months of trial and tribulation, pain and suffering, and I'm telling you, he went through it. He said, who is this who hides counsel without knowledge? He remembers what God said to him at the very beginning when God first started talking to him there in chapter, I can't remember. Who is this who hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I declared, I started speaking, but I didn't understand nothing. Matters too marvelous for me, which I did not know. Listen, please, and let me speak. Let me talk to you one more time, my Lord. I ask you then, would you make it known to me? I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. I've heard about you, Lord, but now I see you. Well, how valuable is that? How valuable is that you now see and understand and know the presence and the glory of God? What did it cost him? Yeah, it cost him everything. Would God ask you for everything? Any man that wants to follow me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and come and follow me. He said, therefore I despise myself, and I repent in dust and ashes. Does that not sound like New Testament to you? People say Job has nothing to do with New Testament. We have a good shepherd. I'm closing. We have a good shepherd. We have his continual presence. See, that's what he gave to Job. He said, here I am. Trust me. Though he never got his answer, he had God, which is better than the answer. And we have his compassion, his comfort, and his understanding of our condition and our situation. This is why we can be content in all things. This is why we can be thankful in all things. But we must understand, though, we are not removed from the arena of pain and suffering. Even though we're not removed from the arena of pain and suffering, we will be upheld in the arena of pain and suffering. See, because God is not chaotic. He has a purpose in everything that he does. Speaking of, take everything I said with a grain of salt.